And good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of NXTilosos, the sexiest NXT review show here at BC WrestlePod. Of course, my name is Mikey, El Jefe of BC WrestlePod, and I'm here to cover the November 11th edition of NXT. Of course, my co hosts are either out doing other things or under the weather, so I am going to be holding it down. Of course, I have, Kilt in the chat just lurking and, doing stuff as he is recovering from being sick. So, speedy recovery to him. And Will is winding down his, tenure. Well, not tenure. He's winding down the play. They just had Tech Week, so they're about to open pretty soon. And then, yeah, but of course, I'm going to be holding it down for the next 15, 20 minutes or so to review this NXT because this one's important as this is setting us up. And that while it's not necessarily a pay per view, this is setting up everything we are getting for the next 2 weeks as we head to New York City, Madison Square Garden Theater, as we head into Gold Rush, which is going to be WWE, AAA, TNA, and Evolve. So, before I get into all of that, though, just to get through the announcements, if you like what you see here and you want to see more of our lives, post-show breakdowns, and even edits, as well as some other things, you can follow us, subscribe on YouTube, or follow us on Twitch or Kick, whatever your preferred video consumption platform is. If you want to interact with us in a smaller dosage, then you can follow us on every social media site or any social media site at BC WrestlePod, where we do report cards, we do predictions. It's a lot of fun. We also have some merchandise available at our shop, bcwrestlepodshop.fourthwall.com. It is great. It is fantastic. And then, of course, if you want to help us support ourselves, our friend, the little coffee bot, will be popping up ever so often in the chat, and you can click that link to donate whatever way you wish. But with that out of the way, let's get into NXT. So again, we are covering the Tuesday, November 11th edition. All roads are now leading to Gold Rush for the next 2 weeks. So this should be interesting and should be fun. But we kick NXT off with, of course, our NXT champion, women's champion, Miss Tatum Paxley. So, of course, last week we had a 6-woman tag team match where we saw Tatum, Izzy, and Lola Vice team up against Fatal Influence, which allowed JC to pin Tatum in this match. So Tatum is out here. The crowd loves her. We love her. Izzy gets on the mic saying that if Tatum wants to stay NXT Women's Champion for long, she's going to have to make some changes, and she can't necessarily be giving out title shots to just anyone. Cue Fatal Influence to come out. JC gets on the mic, and she finagles her way into allowing Tatum to give her another title shot, which essentially is her rematch because JC hasn't gotten her rematch yet for the NXT Women's Championship since Halloween Havoc, and so Tatum agrees. She is going to give JC the rematch at Gold Rush next week. So we have Tatum defending the NXT Women's Championship against JC Jane. I think Tatum is safe. I don't think she's going to lose the title. And if the reports are to be, true or to be confounded, I believe JC and Jordan Grace are on their way up to main roster relatively sooner than later, so to speak. But I'm looking forward to this match. I'm very interested to see next week if Izzy gets involved, if she, like we saw at Halloween Havoc, like we think she's going to cost Tatum the title, but maybe it backfires accidentally. But this is going to be a fun one. I look forward to this match at Gold Rush next week and very interested to see. But again, I believe that Tatum is safe. I don't think she's losing this title anytime soon. After this opening segment, we get into our first match, which is for the WWE Men's Speed Championship. This, of course, is the number one contender in Jasper Troy, taking on the men's speed champion, El Grande Americano Latte, as we call him here at BC WrestlePod. Held up. Shout out Nick, who is chilling in the chat, watching me hold down for the NXT. Uh, Look, Nick, I am not the biggest fan of Jasper either. I feel like we have too many brutish, big boys in WWE in general. But again, I'm not in charge. I don't understand why LFG is a thing. I know people seem to enjoy it. I am not one of them. But you know what? Jasper is here. He's the season 1 winner. He has his NXT contract. NXT sees something in him, so we're just gonna roll with it. But I feel like, in a weird way, Jasper is perfect for this because the Speed Championship, the matches don't go longer than 5 minutes. So, yeah, we're good. No, Nick, I know that I am not in charge because if I was in charge, Jasper would not have become the new Speed Champion. But that's neither here nor there. Again, as far as the match goes, I mean, it's a speed match, 5 minutes. Jasper Troy's okay. Grande Americano, very over in AAA in Mexico, very over here in America. Tries to cheat with the metal plate, but gets caught by the ref, which is enough of a distraction for Jasper to hit his finisher. And your winner and new men's speed champion, Jasper Troy. And I'm just sitting here and I was just like, we sacrificed Zachary Wentz of TNA and Axiom for this. Yeah. I'm debating if I want to show this, if this is going to get me in trouble. So why not? Because I'm spicy. No, I highly don't recommend that. Or if you are, do it safely in a controlled environment because that's crazy. No, speed matches are very weird. The fact that we still have the speed championships after they stopped putting speed on, Twitter/X is kind of weird to me. But it is what it is. And yeah, so Jasper is the speed champion. Fine, sure, whatever. I don't care, honestly, either way. Now, the women's speed championship is a lot more fun, and that one is more interesting to me. And we're going to get into that later in the show, talking about our second semi-final match, because we found out who will be facing Zarya week 2 of Gold Rush to become the new women's speed champion. But we got to keep this review train going. So after this championship match, we get into the next part of NXT, where, of course, Miss Chelsea Green and All Ego Ethan Page come in. So prior to this, because I couldn't get a picture, prior to this, we had our WWE Men's Evolve champion, Jackson Drake, as well as Swipe Right. Yes, I watched Evolve. What's it to you? Where Ava announces that Jackson Drake will be defending the WWE Men's Evolve Championship against Super Sean Legacy at Gold Rush. So that is going to be week 2, I believe they said it was. And so, of course, look, if you're not watching WWE Evolve, honestly, I enjoy it for what it is. It's free on Tubi. I do like some of the talent there. Of course, Swipe Right and the Vanity Project, I think, are a really fun heel stable. Each individual member of that is good. I love Kendall as our new Evolve Women's Champion. There's also a couple other people down there like Super Sean Legacy, Cappuccino Jones, Jack Cartwheel, that I really, really vibe with, and I'm digging, and I love them too. You know what? And of course now we're getting a spotlight on Aaron Rourke, who is amazing down there too. Very, very fun stuff. So I'm excited to see Jackson Drake and Super Sean Legacy during Gold Rush. But here we get, of course, we know that Ethan Page and Chelsea are going to be defending those AAA mixed tag team championships at Gold Rush. But tonight Alba Fire is getting a match with Miss Thea Hale. So we will talk about that match when we get to it in a little bit. But to first up, after, backstage was very busy for Ava, because then the next segment shows Sol, Ruka, and Zarya, so Zaruka, in the offices of Ava, where we find out that Sol is technically medically cleared. And despite Ava and Zarya's, cautions, Sol Ruka is going to challenge Blake Monroe for the NXT Women's Championship at Gold Rush next week. So this is what I'm trying to figure out, because I initially thought that Sol was actually hurt. Like, I thought she was going to be out for a little bit. It seems that she's okay. And my whole thing is like, if she was always okay, and maybe that wasn't the case, but things change, why did we do an injury angle for Sol to have her, vacate? Well, for Zarya to lose her NXT Women's North American Championship to Blake Monroe, and for her to give up the Women's Speed Championship if Sol is okay. I have questions. So I'm very interested to see how this match goes down between Blake and Sol next week for the NXT Women's North American. So that sets up that match, and we're getting that next week for Gold Rush Week 1. A lot of good stuff happening in the next couple of times, so this should be very fun. After this segment, though, we get into our next match of the evening, which is Thea Hale versus Alba Fire. I really, really enjoy this. This was shenanigans, of course. We have to get, Chelsea and Ethan and Joe and Thea to have some interaction during this match because of their championship match at Gold Rush next week. This was fun. I love Thea Hale. I've missed her. She's been gone for a little bit. I don't know why NXT wasn't putting her on television, but I'm glad that she's here, and I'm having a good time with her. So Thea and Alba have a pretty decent match, of course. Ethan and Chelsea get up in Joe's face. Joe, being, the scraggly rabbit that he is, ducks out of the way in time for Chelsea to accidentally knock Ethan Page out and hit him, which was enough of a distraction for Thea Hale to pick up the win. So Thea Hale beats Alba Fire. Look, if Alba is fine with how this is, and it's like good for her, she's getting this paycheck, but it's crazy to me, and I want more for Alba, especially being, formerly known as Kaylee Ray. And the fact that she's a former NXT UK Women's Champion too, but WWE nowadays pretends that NXT UK does not exist, which is very sad. But again, this match was fine. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It set up for what we needed it to be. And I look forward to this mixed tag team championship match next week at Gold Rush. After this match between Alba and Thea Hale, we move into the backstage area once again, where Tatum is talking with the NXT champion, Ricky Saints. And I think Ricky is going to be a catalyst for Tatum to finally defect eventually, which is crazy to say. But Ricky tells Tatum that, you know what, only you can be the one to figure out how you're going to be a champion. Don't let anybody else tell you how to be a champion, because at the end of the day, you are the champion and you make that decision for yourself. And Tatum's listening, which then prompts the calling of Izzy, Sean Spears and Homeboy to grab her. And Ricky ends this little backstage segment by saying, you know what? She's kind of weird, but you know what? I dig her. I like her. And honestly, again, the crowd is behind Tatum so much, and I really do like this because I do think this is going to set up eventually for Tatum to go out on her own. Again, Lyra's been popping up in here and there ever so often, so I don't want Tatum to go back to like Lyra right away, but I think Tatum is going to end up being on her own relatively soon. And honestly, I kind of like that because Tatum is amazing and she don't need nobody else to tell her what to do. So, very good job. I like this. Tatum is so over with the crowd. We love her here at BC WrestlePod too. So, very fun and very excited to see her match against JC next week at Gold Rush. After this backstage segment, though, we get into this pre-taped promo vignette. I'm not going to lie. When I first saw it, I had to do a double glance. I'm like, Toni Storm, ma'am, what are you doing here? But it's not Timeless Toni Storm. But Mariah May is taking everything that she learned from her time in AEW to do this. So, of course, we have the glamour Blake Monroe, who is the NXT Women's North American Champion, talking to the Devil Blake Monroe. And basically, we get this good versus evil type of debate where the evil version of Blake Monroe says that in order for the good version of Blake to truly become champion and to be a definitive powerhouse in the women's locker room, she has to allow that darkness out a little bit to destroy Soul, which I think is what's going to happen. I don't foresee Soul getting this championship back next week. And honestly, I think we might play an angle where Blake destroys Soul and like she's gone for a couple of weeks off of television. I enjoyed this. I know a lot of people were, taking a hot dookie on this and, calling it copycatting for Blake to do this kind of stuff and like saying it's like, oh, you're trying to be timeless Tony Storm. Look, Blake Monroe, formerly known as Mariah May, her time in AEW has taught her a lot of things. And why not use these things in NXT? She knows what she wants. I feel like she's very underrated. And I like this. I like when wrestlers, now whether this was all her or a little bit of a collab between her and NXT Creative, but the fact that they did this was really, really cool. And I want to see wrestling in more general take some risks like this. Now, it doesn't always going to pan out. And this time, I liked it for what it was. It wasn't anything groundbreaking. But the fact of the matter is that Blake did this. NXT was cool with it. And I like this. And I'm looking forward to seeing what Blake brings next week to her match against Soul at Gold Rush. So very well done. I enjoyed it for what it was. Blake Monroe, dig you, girl. Love it. It was fantastic. After we get to this interview with herself, we get into our next match, which is a semifinal match for the Women's Speed Championship Tournament. Really quick, this is again because these matches are less than 3 minutes. Fallon Henley ends up winning. So at Gold Rush, it is going to be Fallon Henley versus Zarya for the vacant WWE Women's Speed Championship. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Again, these speed matches, these qualifiers at least are 3 minutes or less, so not much to really say here. After this match, though, we get into the next part of NXT, which, let me get there and let me move it really quickly. There we go. So, Javon Evans is in the middle of this ring, and he talks about, because Javon's going to be a busy boy. He is going to be on Monday Night Raw this upcoming Monday to face Gunther in the Last Time Is Now tournament to see who will be John Cena's final opponent at Saturday night's main event. You can tune in Sunday to hear my thoughts because I think the in-ring is going to be great, but I'm having a big problem with this stupid tournament. I was like, where are the brackets? But of course, there's not brackets because I know for a fact that WWE probably doesn't even know who is all competing in this tournament, which is crazy. But Javon has that. And then literally announced about an hour ago, Javon's going to be traveling to Mexico for the next AAA show to be challenging for Laredo Kid's title in a triple threat between Javon, Laredo, and Octagon Jr. So that should be a very, very fun and a very interesting match for sure. But then Javon gets to talking and he makes the announcement by pulling, TNA X Division champion Leon Slater onto the Titantron. And we find out that Leon and Javon will be challenging for the NXT Tag Team Championships against Dark State at Gold Rush next week. I'm not going to lie, y'all. I don't think they're going to be tag champs, but I would love to see Leon and Javon become tag team champions. That would be amazing. Dark State come out. They think they have the advantage because Leon is not in the building tonight. So it is a 1-on-4, which then becomes a 2-on-4 because Leon is here and he ends up helping Javon clear ring. Javon and Leon stand tall against Dark State to end this segment. I really would love for these two to become new NXT Tag Team Champions, but I think Dark State is going to retain. But man, I'm looking forward to Javon and Leon tagging again because I really enjoyed them tagging at Halloween Havoc against, Mr. Iguana and La Parca. So I'm looking forward to this match, and it's going to be a good time. Week 1 is stacking up to be really cool, but week 2 I'm also looking forward to. I think they did a really good job spreading out what matches are going where over the next 2 weeks for Gold Rush. It's going to be a lot of fun. After this segment, we get into our next match, which I also really enjoyed. Tavion Heights versus Josh Briggs. Again, this has been a short feud that has been building. Tavion and Josh has been going at it for the last couple of weeks, and now we get this match and encounter. I thought this was a lot of fun. Again, I feel like finally Josh Briggs has something to do, and we have a direction for him to go. And I really like seeing Tavion more on my screen now that he is no longer part of No Quarter Catch Crew. Him and Miles are out on their own as single stars. I am really here for Tavion getting a push. Tavion is fantastic. And thanks to a bit of a distraction, Tavion does pick up the win on Josh Briggs. I do not think this feud is over, but really happy to see Tavion start getting pushed again, and he gets a win here, so I can't complain. Tavion is one to look out for me, and with Deadline right around the corner, NXT has to decide which 5 men are going to be there, and I really hope to see Tavion as a participant in the men's Deadline match. Should be a grand old time for sure. After this match, though, we get into what happens next. So let me just get this slide up. Where the girls be fighting. So we have Kendall Gray and Ren Sinclair backstage with Ava talking about everything. And then, of course, we have Lainey Reed come up. She's like, you know what, Kendall? And then she slaps her and the girls begin to fight. And so this warrants Lainey getting a WWE Evolve Championship match at Gold Rush Week 2. So it's like, oh, okay, so that's how we get championship matches. We just slap the champion and it's officially made. So in 2 weeks at Gold Rush Week 2, it will be Kendall defending her WWE Evolve Women's Championship against Lainey Reed. So I honestly think this is where if it's not just JC by herself, I think we're going to see all of Fatal Influence move over to the main roster very soon. I think all members are going to lose, and then that is going to be it for them. So looking forward to that match in 2 weeks at Gold Rush Week 2. After this backstage segment, we get a rundown of what's coming up for Gold Rush Week 1. So as stated before, the matches that we have currently scheduled include the NXT Women's Championship, Tatum defending her title against JC Jane. The NXT Tag Team Championships are also on the line, Dark State defending their titles against Leon Slater and Javon Evans. For the NXT Women's North American Championship, we have Blake Monroe defending against Sol Ruka. And for the AAA Mixed Tag Team Championships, of course, we have the champions in All Ego, Ethan Page and Chelsea Green defending the titles against Joe Hendry and Thea Hale. I'm looking forward to Gold Rush next week. I think it's going to be really fun. And then week 2, we're getting the triple threat for the TNA Knockouts Championship. We are getting the Speed Finals. We're getting a lot of fun stuff, and I'm looking forward to it as well. So stay tuned for all of that goodness coming in the next 2 weeks for us here at BC WrestlePod. But we get into our main event for NXT this week, which is a last man standing match for the NXT Championship. This is Ricky Saints defending his title against Trick Williams. I had fun with this. Was this the craziest match I've ever seen? No, not really. But this was fantastic. I think Ricky and Trick did very well. I think it was just enough spot fest and blood to be like, yeah, this was pretty good. They fought in the crowd. They went through barricades. They went through the wall. This was a lot of fun. And I'm not going to lie. At first, I was just like, oh, yeah, definitely Ricky's winning. And then Trick was like, oh, they would actually get a Trick maybe. But then I was like, nah, Ricky's going to retain it. And I was absolutely correct. So Ricky Saints ends up winning the match. So Trick Williams, I think, is also on his way out to main roster. I feel like he has gotten everything he's done here. And I think we should be moving Trick over really soon to the main roster. But to end the show, however, as Ricky gets back into the ring to celebrate because we were running out of time on the show, we get the return of one Mr. Oba Femi, who commentary pointed out that he is here for one more reign. So it seems we're going to be running back Oba and Ricky one more time. I also think Oba should be moved over to main roster. Whether that is the case or not, who knows? But This is how we end NXT this week with Oba Femi coming back, and it seems that we're heading towards Oba versus Ricky round 3. So this should be very, very fun. But that's going to be it for us here at NXT. So overall, I had a good time with this episode last night. I graded it a B. I think it was a really strong, solid show with lots of fun, setting up everything that we need to for Gold Rush the next 2 weeks. And that is what you're going to see the next 2 weeks of NXT, where we will be covering Gold Rush, which is TNA, Evolve, AAA, and NXT all coming together. So it's going to be championship matches galore, which I'm super excited about. And then after Gold Rush, we're probably going to start getting our qualifying matches for Deadline, for the men's and women's Deadline match. So 100% really, really enjoyed this week of NXT, and I had a good time. But that's going to be it for me here at NXTilosos. We do have a fun week remaining. At 8 p.m. Pacific tonight, I will be here with Adolfo and Papa Oso Will as we review another fun episode of CMLL Viernes Espectacular, as we talk about good lucha libre action. Then on Friday, after 4 weeks of not having any television programming, the TNA boys are finally back, as we now have an actual episode. And guess what? Not only is it a review for this Thursday's episode, but we will be making predictions for TNA's Turning Point pay-per-view, which is literally happening while we go live, which means the following week we will be reviewing TNA Turning Point. God, I love pay-per-views after we have no television for a month. Not really. That's me being facetious and sarcastic, but we take what we get with TNA. And then we wrap things up on Sunday at 11:30 a.m. Pacific, where we are going to be going over Raw and SmackDown. We gotta wait till SmackDown, but Raw, I think, did a really good job of actually stepping on the gas to kind of get together what we're doing for War Games. I still hate that we're waiting till like 2 weeks out to get all these things built, but it is what it is, and I'll take what I can get. And should be a fun time when I go see Survivor Series live in a couple of weeks. But once again, that is it. My name is Mikey El Jefe of BC WrestlePod, and thank you for tuning into NXTilosos. From all of us here at BC WrestlePod, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, stay iconic, and more importantly than anything, you always deserve to finish your story. I will see you at 8 p.m. with Adolfo and Papa Oso for CMLL. But until then, sayonara, adios, and until next time, peace.